This video will show you how to create a reusable process for the factory of your application. In Triggre, this is called a flow part. In the overview, we see that some flow parts cannot be opened. These are flow parts which Triggre automatically generates and maintains when you make changes to your data. We will make a flow part which sends us an email with the number of tasks that are new or in progress. We start by adding a new flow part with the Add button. We first give our flow part a name, in this case, Send Tasks Reminder. The new flow part is now in the list. The red one indicates that there's something wrong with the flow part. That is correct, because it is still empty. Open the flow part by clicking on it. We start by clicking the Add button to go into Add mode. Now we can select the starting point of the flow part. We see two green plus buttons. We start by adding an input to our process. For this flow part, we want to have a list with all open tasks as the input. Therefore, we choose Data Item. From the list of data items, we select Task. We now have to choose whether we want one task as input or a list of tasks. Because there can be more than a single task open, we choose a list. Then we give the input a name, so we will know later on what we have to supply as an input when we use the flow part. Now that we have an input, we will add an action to our flow part. We click the plus button that is attached to the arrow. We can now choose from several actions to add. We first want to count the number of open tasks, so we choose Calculation. What we see now is the rule editor in Triggre. This is used to build all sorts of business rules and calculations. We start our rule by clicking the green plus. Now we can choose what we want to add to the calculation, in this case a function. As you can see, there are many functions available in Triggre. Triggre only shows functions that you can currently use in your rule. If you don't have a date in your flow part, for example, you will not see any date functions. We choose the function to count the number of items in the list. Now that we have added the function, we have to indicate what the function has to count. We click the green plus inside the function. As you can see, there's only one option available, a property from the flow part. After selecting it, we can choose from all the data that is available from our flow part that we can count using this function. In this case, this is only the list of open tasks we defined as an input, and everything related to tasks in that list. This way, you can also very easily select related data. For now, we don't need to. We simply want to count the number of tasks in the list. Our calculation is done. To exit the rule editor, we click the blue plus button. The final step is to give the calculation a name. This is mainly important to find the calculation later on. It is handy to use the result from the calculation as the name. In this case, this means we will use number of open tasks. After we have counted the number of open tasks, we will add a decision. As you can see, we have an extra option to end the flow part. For now, it's too early to do that, and we add a decision first. We see the rule editor again. We use the rule editor to make different types of decisions. In this case, we want to know whether there are open tasks. So, if the number of open tasks is larger than 0. We start by clicking the plus and selecting the result of our calculation, which is now visible in the list. Now we can expand the rule to the left and the right of number of open tasks. We click on the right plus button. Again, Triggre only shows the items that we can add to the rule. In this case, only mathematical or comparison signs. We choose the greater than sign. The last step of our rule is the number 0 with which we want to compare. We click the plus and choose for the option specific value. Here we enter a number, in this case 0. Our rule is done, so we click the blue plus to exit ad mode. Final step is to give the decision a clear name. In this case, Open Tasks Found is a good name, since the decision is a true-false decision. Now that we have added the decision, we can make a separate path for each of the outcomes. We start by clicking the plus again. In this case, Triggre asks when we want to execute the step. We choose false, so when no tasks were found. When there are no tasks, we do not want to send an email, so we choose to end the flow part here. We now see a path with the label false, which leads to the end of our flow part. Next, we will make the path for true. Now, only the option for true is available. We add an action of type send email. In the text editor, we can easily type and format text. We can also add a placeholder, for example, the number of open tasks. The next step is choosing a subject. We can choose a specific subject or a value from the flow part. For now, we choose a specific subject. As recipient, we choose our own email address and no CC or BCC recipients. As the sender, we use noreply@triggre.com and we choose not to add an attachment. The last step is to give the action a name again, and in this case we simply use send mail. After sending the mail, we can also end the flow part for this path. We can also add outputs to our flow part. Outputs are passed on to the user flow or the automation flow in which the flow part is used. Here we can choose all values that are available in the flow part. We choose the number of open tasks. Triggre suggests a name for the output. If you want, you can change the name to your needs. Our flow part is now done. We leave the add mode by clicking the add button and return to the list of flow parts. The red one is now gone, and our flow part now works correctly. In the next video, we will use this flow part in an automation flow.